Hello, and welcome to episode 12 of our Exodus series. Repetition. Repetition is when something happens again and again and again. Repetition is when something happens again and again and again. In the Bible, when things happen again and again and again, God is showing us some important lessons. Today's story is a repetition. Remember what we've heard about in the last few weeks. The Israelites have seen Yahweh show the world what he's like as he sent 10 plagues on Egypt. They have been saved from God's judgment and saved from slavery to Pharaoh and the Egyptians. They have seen Yahweh destroy his enemies at the Red Sea. It was amazing. They all sang about how great and glorious Yahweh was. They were safe. They were free. They were on their way to the land that Yahweh had promised to them, the Promised Land. But they grumbled. Grumble, grumble, grumble. We've got no water. Then, we've got no food. We've got no meat. Grumble, grumble, grumble. Yahweh has rescued them. Yahweh has destroyed their enemies, and still they were not happy. But Yahweh was so kind to them and so generous. He gave them water to drink, and he gave them bread from heaven to eat, and he gave them quails to eat. Yahweh provided for his people. God's people should know Yahweh is generous. By now, you would think God's people had learnt this lesson. Let's see what happens next. I'm going to read from Exodus chapter 17, verse 1. The whole Israelite community set out from the desert of Sin, traveling from place to place as Yahweh commanded. They camped at Rephidim, but there was no water for the people to drink. Okay, so they've got no water to drink again. Surely they will remember what Yahweh has just done for them. How Yahweh gave them water to drink and food to eat. Surely they will ask Yahweh to help them. Let's listen to what they did. This is chapter 17, verse 2. So they quarreled with Moses and said, "Give us water to drink." What? They quarreled with Moses. That doesn't make any sense. Silly Israelites. But it gets worse. Listen to this. This is chapter 17, verses 2 to 3. Moses replied, "Why do you quarrel with me? Why do you put Yahweh to the test?" But the people were thirsty for water there, and they grumbled against Moses. They said, "Why did you bring us up out of Egypt to make us and our children and livestock die of thirst?" They think they were better off in Egypt. Egypt was where they were slaves to mean old Pharaoh. That doesn't make any sense either. Silly Israelites. The Israelites should have known by now what Yahweh can do. They should have known that Yahweh can provide water and food for them. They should have just asked him. Instead, the Israelites are angry. They are even angry with Moses. They are so angry with Moses that they want to kill him. This is ridiculous. This is wrong. The Israelites shouldn't want to kill Moses. Instead, they should trust Yahweh to provide for them. Moses doesn't know what to do, so he cries out to Yahweh. I'm going to read Exodus chapter 17, verse 4. Then Moses cried out to Yahweh, "What am I to do with these people? They are almost ready to stone me." What will Yahweh do? Will he punish them? Will he destroy them for being so ungrateful? He could if he wanted to. Instead, something else happens. Yahweh told Moses to take his staff and gather together some of the elders of the people. This was the staff that was Yahweh's sign that he was with Moses and with the Israelites. It was the same staff that had turned into a snake. It was the staff that Moses had held out over the Red Sea. Yahweh told Moses to go to a rock and hit it with the staff. That seems strange. Yahweh's people need water. Why should Moses hit a rock with his staff? But Moses did just what Yahweh said, and water came gushing out, just what they needed. Yahweh had provided for his people again. This was much more than the people deserved. Ever since their rescue from Egypt, the Israelites had grumbled and moaned. But Yahweh was so kind and good to them. Yahweh was with them all the time. Yahweh knew exactly what his people needed on their way to the promised land, and he provided for them. He was kind to let his people have the things they needed, even though they did not deserve them at all. Yahweh is like that. Yahweh is generous and provides for his people, even though they don't deserve it. It's easy for us to make fun of the Israelites. It's easy for us to think that they were very silly. It's easy for us to wonder how on earth they could forget so quickly what Yahweh had done for them. But we can be just like the Israelites too. Sometimes we moan about having to get up on a Sunday morning to go to Sunday school. Or sometimes we get annoyed with our mom and dad when they make us read the Bible in the evening because we would rather keep playing with our toys or watching TV. But that means we are a lot like the Israelites. Everyone who trusts in Jesus is on their way to a new promised land, the new creation, just like the Israelites were on their way to the promised land. Yahweh knew exactly what the Israelites needed on the way, and so he provided for their needs. They needed food and water to keep going. Yahweh knows exactly what we need to keep going while we head to the new creation. We need to keep listening to God's word. Yahweh gave the Israelites Moses to lead them and take care of them, and they were angry with him. Yahweh gave us, our parents and our church, to take care of us and help us listen to God's word. But often we can get annoyed with our parents, or we can feel like we can't be bothered to go to church. Sometimes we grumble and moan at the thought of listening to God's word. Moaning and groaning like this is not good. When we moan and groan like this, it shows we don't deserve Yahweh's kindness. But Yahweh is still the same as he was in Exodus. He is generous and kind and provides for his people, even though they don't deserve it. Even though we moan and groan, Yahweh keeps giving us what we need. Yahweh keeps forgiving his people. Yahweh keeps giving us his word. Yahweh keeps providing for his people, even though they don't deserve it. Next time, we'll hear more about how great Yahweh is. See you then.